This is the daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokespersons office. Now, Hamas still wants to murder each and every Israeli. Hamas murderers again fired rockets at Israelis from the Gaza Strip, and 5 times since the weekend, Hamas rockets have hurtled towards us. 5 times since the weekend, young and old, rich and poor, Jew, Christian, Muslim, ran for their lives from Hamas. And the last rocket to be fired was fired less than 3 hours ago. Israeli intelligence believes that Hamas are desperately firing off their remaining rockets before Israel's troops find and destroy them. But any rocket fired has deadly intent as and is an attempt to murder us. Hamas is weak now, but there should be no doubt that if left alone, Hamas will again strengthen, and if left alone, Hamas will again massacre any and all Israelis. The war that Hamas launched on October 7th, 2023 cannot end with Hamas able to commit another barbaric atrocity or several as they would intend. It is only Israel's troops that stand between Hamas and their truly genocidal goals. And Israel's troops have been busy stopping Hamas. Hamas has been trying to regroup in northern Gaza, and Israel has been stopping them. In a major battle, over 100 Hamas murderers were eliminated and hundreds were captured. And earlier this week, Israel's forces raided a Hamas military hospital and caught 240 Hamas murderers using it as a base. The next day, hundreds of Hamas terrorists tried using the cover of a rainy night to attack Israel's forces and to infiltrate into other parts of Gaza. Groups of 10, 15, and even 30 Hamas soldiers approached Israel's forces. And there were at least 5 different attacks in 5 different areas. Israel has good intelligence, and instead of being surprised, they did the surprising. Northern Gaza remains a war zone, and nearly all civilians are gone from the area, with only hundreds of Hamas soldiers still remaining. And that is why Israel is still fighting there and may be forced to continue to do so for some time to come. There is no doubt that Hamas is down, but they are not out. And the whole world needs to understand that Hamas is the reason the war continues. Hamas began the war. Hamas doesn't want to end the war, and it is Israel who wants peace. But there is no peace while Hamas still holds power. Hamas exists for the purpose of perpetuating war, and for the sake of peace, Hamas cannot be left in power. All right, let's take some questions from our audience watching live via social media.
Our first question comes in from Katie. Is there any update about a deal to release the hostages?
Well, Katie, thank you so much for the question. From what we understand so far, Hamas is refusing to release 12 out of the 34 hostages in the proposed deal's first phase, instead offering the remains of 12 dead hostages, per reports coming from Gaza itself. Hamas is also demanding Israel release many more murderers as a ransom. And as we mentioned yesterday, Hamas has refused to even provide a list of living hostages unless Israel first pledges to stop fighting Hamas, thus putting preconditions in the way of any fair negotiation. So far, Hamas has rejected every offer. Hamas is demanding Israel capitulate without releasing the hostages so it can hold on to hostages for insurance and so it can plan and continue even more October 7th, as they've explicitly stated they want to do into the future.
Our next question comes in from Tal. There are reports of Gazan children forced to stay in tents during the cold and rain, even some who are dying from hypothermia. What is Israel doing about this?
Well, Tal, thank you so much for that very important question, because the situation truly is heinous. The fact that there are young children who are being forced into the cold to be left to die potentially in terrible conditions over the course of the winter here in Israel and the region across the Middle East is truly terrible. But we need to understand why this situation is occurring. The situation is occurring because Hamas, instead of committing resources to help its people, chooses instead to commit resources into more rocket fire, into building more tunnels, into planning more attacks, into stealing food, resources, aid that were intended for their civilian population in order to enrich themselves further. This is Hamas's cruel, cruel goal and aim, and this is the reason that Hamas uses its own people as human shields and at their expense, at the expense of the lives of their own young people, risking their situation, their life, and instead enriching themselves. This situation cannot go on and truly is intolerable, and is precisely why Hamas needs to be removed from power and cannot be left by the UN, other international forces or others, because they need to be held accountable for the horrors and atrocities that they have perpetuated, certainly against Israel's people, but also against their own people inside Gaza.
Our last question from today comes from Benny. The war has been going on now for more than an entire year. On New Year's Eve, what can we hope for 2025?
Well, Benny, thank you for the chance to end today's briefing with a hint of optimism for the new year, because I truly am optimistic. And I will say to my birth country of Australia, a happy New Year's already, because as we all know, Australians live in the future, and it is, in fact, already the year of 2025 on the East Coast. But for the rest out there, and I will say, addressing this region, I do have hope for the future. I have hope that the hostages that have been languishing in Hamas hands for over a year now can be returned. I have hope that the wars that are being fought across the Middle East can end. I have hope that the new regime in Syria can help establish a secure and neutral country that can form peaceful ties with Israel. And I hope that that can be extended beyond all the other 7 fronts that Israel is fighting. I hope that the Iranian regime may finally face accountability for its actions, and that the Iranian people may receive a sense of freedom, independence, and integrity that they have so long sought for. I have so many hopes for 2025, and I truly am excited for what the year may bring, and the hope of peace, security, and safety for all. So to all those out there, I wish you a happy new year, and I hope that these messages do indeed come true. And I will just end lastly by saying thank you so much for watching. Today is the last day to make donations to our 2024 campaign. Many of you have already contributed to our end of year campaign, and we really, truly appreciate your partnership in our efforts to fight the information war. This daily briefing is just a small part of the content that we're producing and posting every single day across all of our social media platforms. And we have a matching donor, so any contribution that you make will in fact be doubled in its effectiveness and its reach. That is all we have time for today, but I want to thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Israel time and 8 a.m. on the East Coast. I'm Westropp-Evans. Thanks for watching.